And good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back. This is Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston, and I'm the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. I was just posting a notice on Facebook that my return engagement on the Peter Boyles radio program out of Denver, Colorado, had to be rescheduled. I was informed they had some kind of big local breaking news taking place that they were in the process of covering, but they did assure me pardon me, that they do definitely want to have me back on, and so we will reschedule, and I'll let you know when that takes place. Well, we're in the process of examining the doctrine of the already but the not yet. Biblically, the New Testament writers, and of course Jesus, often spoke of things as if they were already present and then turned around and spoke of those things as not yet. They had not yet arrived, or of those things as taking place. So you have statements about already, you have statements about in process, and you have statements about not yet. It has perplexed scholars and Bible students for centuries. And one way to deal with it, unfortunately, is many Bible students have said, well, yeah, you have an already that is a spiritual, but they were waiting for the physical. That's the position, by the way, that Joel McDermott took in my debate with him, July of 2012 at the Preterist Pilgrim Weekend. We have the spiritual realities to which the Old Covenant types and shadows pointed and foreshadowed, but we're looking now for the physical fulfillment of those things. Well, that's completely an untenable position. You need to get a copy of that debate book. By the way, it's available on my websites, and you'll see the rather desperate lengths to which Joel McDermott went in attempting to avoid the fulfillment issue found on the pages of the New Testament. Oh yeah, fulfilled spiritually, but we're waiting for physical. Well, as I pointed out in the debate, God has operated from first the natural, then the spiritual. McDermott's hermeneutic and the hermeneutic that says, yes, they had received spiritual resurrection, spiritual salvation, but they're waiting for the physical, pardon me, violates God's modus operandi. To continue, when we look at the already but the not yet, one of the most powerful symbols of this is the temple of God. I don't know why I'm having so much trouble with my voice this morning. Now, keep in mind that in the last segment, I pointed out that according to Isaiah, chapter 25, 6 to 8, the Messianic banquet, the Messianic Temple, and the resurrection of the dead all go hand in hand. They are all inextricably tied together. The Messianic banquet. Now watch. On this mountain, that's the mountain of the temple. That's the Messianic Temple. I will establish a great feast. Messianic feast. Messianic banquet. Verse 8, he will destroy death. So we have three absolutely interrelated concepts that cannot be divorced from one another. Now, watch what happens in the New Testament. We will consider the Messianic banquet a little bit later, but notice the concept of Messianic temple and resurrection. Since temple and resurrection go absolutely hand in hand, it is critical, therefore, that we come to the New Testament and we realize that the New Testament writers are emphatic. The foundation, first of all, the chief cornerstone of the Messianic Temple had already been laid in Jesus Christ. Acts 4, 11 and 12. That text is so ironic. But the chief cornerstone of the Messianic Temple was Jesus in His resurrection, which is the first fruit resurrection of the harvest. So, foundation or cornerstone, temple, Jesus' resurrection. You see the connection? Here's the already. Jesus is the first fruits. Well, folks, first fruits indicates a process of harvest. Harvest is not over. Harvest is not completed with the bringing in of the first fruit. Likewise, the chief cornerstone had been laid of the Messianic Temple. Folks, the temple is not completed when the chief cornerstone has been laid. Now watch what happens in Ephesians chapter 2. Oh, by the way, notice that Ephesians chapter 2, verses 1 to 5, speaks repeatedly of how you, who were dead in your sins, yet now has He raised up together with Christ and seated you in heavenly places, i.e., resurrection. But notice what he says later in the chapter. In Ephesians chapter 2, as he writes to the Gentiles, and now you are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God. Folks, household of God is the temple of God. And notice what he says. You are being built up a habitation of God through the Spirit. The Greek of the text is in the present active indicative. So, he ties together resurrection with temple. But notice the transitional form. Notice the already but the not yet. Jesus Christ is the chief cornerstone. Look at verse 19 again. You are being built up a habitation of God, or you are strangers and foreigners on the household of God, being built upon the foundation of Christ and the apostles and prophets who are the foundation. Christ, the first fruits of the resurrection, Christ, the chief cornerstone, apostles and prophets, foundation. And you are being built up. So once again, pardon me. Once again, you have resurrection, you have temple, foundation stone being laid, you are being built up, a habitation of God. Here in some of the most powerful expressions that could be imagined, number one, you have the interconnectedness of resurrection and temple. And number two, you have the reality that the foundation stone, the chief cornerstone, had been laid, past tense. The foundation had been laid, apostles and prophets, past tense, and now they were being built up a habitation of God. Ongoing, transitional process, anticipating consummation. Here is a powerful expression, not only of the already, chief cornerstone, foundation, you were raised up, but of the already process, and as we shall see, they were awaiting that consummation, not only of resurrection, but of temple. All right. This is good stuff. Now, don't forget, order your copy of the McDermott-Preston debate to see how wrong this concept is of a process that had begun spiritually and was awaiting physical consummation. It's really important that you see this. Get a copy of the McDermott-Preston debate. Read it for yourself. See the fallacy of this wrong-headed hermeneutic that is being espoused in the dominionists as well as the amillennial world who believes in this first the spiritual and then the physical. Folks, this is wrong. It is unbiblical. and it needs to be cast away. Hey, thanks again for joining me. Don't forget, get a copy of that. Oh, no, by the way, don't forget to join me and Harold Eberly in Bend, Oregon, coming up November the 9th and the 10th. Details of that are on my website, www.eschatology.org, BibleProphecy.com. Be a part of this. You know, this is not really a debate. This is more of an open forum between Harold and myself as we exchange areas in which we agree and discuss the areas of disagreement. And we're going to be fielding questions and answers. This is a 2-day event. Boy, this is going to be really, really good. So come be a part of that in Bend, Oregon, November 9th through the 10th. Thanks again for joining me. We'll see you on the flip side.